Mahershala Ali is still attached to Blade, says Kevin Feige. And also Rab B. Shetty, an Indian Kannada filmmaker, has said that you don't only need a known face to be the only draw for a movie. And last but not the least, Lilwin has said that I am the king of Ghana movies and I am the president of African movies, period. Well, we'll be delving into these stories and more right here on the Film Mandate. My name is Papa Otu. Stay tuned. Well, welcome back to the Film Mandate, where I bring to you movie news, reviews, and reactions, both from the African front and the international scene. And thank you for joining me for this episode of the Film Mandate. I hope you had a blissful weekend. Well, let's delve into the very first story. And this story has to do with Marvel. I know for so many years we've been expectant of what Marvel Studios has for us in terms of one particular production. There's been rumors thrown around severally over the years, and this project was announced since 2019 at San Diego Comic Con with the two-time Oscar winner Mahershala Ali attached to it, but nothing has become of it yet. However, finally, from the horse's own mouth of Marvel Studios, we've heard something about it, and that is Kevin Feige over the weekend, that is on Friday, met with a group of journalists and brought up the issue of why the Blade movie have not still gone into production. So let's take a look at this article published in the Variety by Angelique Jackson and Adam B. Vary. And it says that Kevin Feige explains Blade delays. We didn't want to simply put a leather outfit on Mahershala Ali and have him start killing vampires. So it then your short was when they at the event at San Diego Comic Con when he announced Mahershala Ali as the new Blade of Marvel. So I read, despite numerous starts, Mahershala Ali's debut as a vampire slayer in Blade is still in the works. Marvel Studios chief Kevin Feige confirmed. Mahershala Ali is still attached, Feige told a room full of journalists gathered at Marvel Studios on Friday about the project, which would see the two-time Oscar winner assume the role originated on screen by Wesley Snipes, who played the part in the late 90s and 2000s, as well as in 2024's Deadpool and Wolverine. The obstacle, the obstacle was Rankugla called and said, "We'd love some costumes for Sinners," he joked, referring to costumes created by Ruth E. Carter for an abandoned Blade film that Marvel commissioned, then sold back to Carter for Coogler's vampire movie. And we said, "Take him. No, take him, man. No problem. He's a good friend. Take our costumes. We'll hold off on the movie." In all seriousness, Kevin Feige explained that prolonged delays on Blade were a symptom of Marvel's overexpansion, how the executive characterizes the studio's response to Disney's mandate to produce more content at the onset of the Disney Plus streaming service. Feige hesitated to use a dramatic term with fallout to characterize the resulting situation, but for the very first time ever, quantity trumped quality, he said, echoing similar comments made recently by Disney CEO Bob Iger. "We had spent 12 years working on the Infinity Saga, saying, that's never going to happen to us," Feige said. "We always had more characters that people were asking about than we could possibly make because we weren't going to make a movie a month. That's crazy. Suddenly there's a mandate to make more, and we go, well, we do have more, but maybe that's what we fell into." So, as Marvel began to reevaluate its development process, the Blade movie, which was announced in 2019 and originally intended to hit theaters in November 2023 was one of the projects that stalled. We didn't want to simply just put a leather outfit on him and have him start killing vampires. It had to be unique, Feige explained. It fell into the time when we started pulling back and saying, only accept insanely great, and it wasn't insanely great at the time. He continued, we didn't feel like, as we often do, you can have a good script and make it a great script through production. We didn't feel confident that we could do that on Blade. And we didn't want to do that to Mahershala and didn't want to do that to us. Blade was originally set to begin shooting in 2022, but director Bassam Tariq Mogul Mowgli uh, exited the project in September, roughly 2 months before cameras were supposed to roll. Ian Dimanche, White Boy Rick, then signed on to direct, only to exit the film in June 2024. There is currently no director attached. Ali insists he's still game. Call Marvel, Ali told Variety last month at the New York premiere of his new film Jurassic World Rebirth. When asked when Blade production could start, he replied, I'm ready. Let them know I'm ready. Several screenwriters have also been announced through the years, from Watchmen scribe Stacy Osei to Michael Starbury. And then Feige told Variety there have been 3 or 4 iterations of the Blade story, 2 of which were period pieces. We've landed on modern day, Feige confirmed, which is why we could give those costumes back to Ruth, and that's what we are focusing on. Speaking of sinners, despite the internet's desire to see it, Feige said Coogler is not in the running to helm the picture and seemed surprised that anyone was pushing for that to happen. The filmmaker has Black Panther 3 to focus on, which Feige confirmed is in progress, though no date has been revealed. We know when on the timeline it is, and if he's telling you he doesn't, that's perfect, Feige said with a knowing smile. So after all, does Feige regret announcing the project during Marvel Studios Hall H presentation at San Diego Comic Con in 2019? He said, only in hindsight I do, Feige said, but I don't, because that's the way we'd announced everything before like that and had not delivered. Feige then pointed on to the tremendous amount of curveballs the studio faced between 2019 and today. There were the hurdles that affected the entire industry, like COVID-19 pandemic and strike delays, as well as Marvel-specific tribulations, like friends and stars dying and storylines shifting people because people didn't respond to them the way we wanted to. And then with Kang, actors Jonathan Majors falling out of our ability to use them. So that is the story here for you in Variety as to why the Blade movie have delayed more than necessary. And I mean, we've been expectant of the Blade movie since it was announced way back in 2019, and due to certain factors explained in the article, it's not been fruitful the way it ought to be. I think mainly it had to do with the storyline not perhaps fitting within the whole tapestry of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as time progressed with other movies being released. And that had been the challenge. And just as he said, perhaps they took for granted how certain changes of in the policy for Marvel went as a whole to affect the Marvel Cinematic Universe in delaying the Blade as a movie. And one of them, which he mentioned, was quantity, when there was a mandate under Bob Chapek era to ensure that a number of films or a number of TV projects are put on the streaming platform that is Disney Plus. And that, I think, stretched him as a producer, as the ace producer for the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, too thin to ensure that the quality checks for all those films are done. And in hindsight, just as he said, it led to a lot of, what would I say, falling of the chips, affecting a number of the productions as they would have wanted it to be. So prior to it, the movies being great, now the movies ended up being just mediocre, and in the long term did affect the Blade project, which should have been in production for now. Personally, I think that with the period pieces that they had in mind, just as they had done with the perhaps Fantastic Four, which we are yet to see, they could have found a way to create Blade as a pocket universe on its as a pocket universe on its own, or perhaps a pocket story on its own, not affected by the current timeline of the MCU. But I'm sure they have a good reason why they abandoned the period piece and ended up in the current or modern time. We're now having had four iterations of the Blade movie, which never went into production. I'm sure as the MCU progressed, the different stories did affect the Blade timeline. Knowing Kevin Feige, he wants every film to be a piece of the puzzle of the whole picture. So I'm sure as time went on, the Blade movie as it is couldn't fit within the whole fabric of the MCU. And I'm sure introducing the first vampire of the MCU has major consequences on the storyline, and as a result, may not want to rush it into making that happen. But the good news is that Mahershala Ali is still attached, and regardless, he's still game to go. And this is even confirmed by Kevin Feige himself. I just hope it's not just a PR thing, which I don't think Kevin Feige gives into that. But we are hoping that they actually come up with a project soon to feature him, because he's still aging. I mean, he's relatively young, in his 50s, early 50s, but when it has to do with a lot of the stunt works that would require him to play in the role of Blade, 50 and counting may not be ideal for him to perform at peak performance with regards to the stunt sequences. In as much as there will be stunt people to step in, I'm sure being a method actor or a good actor as he is, Mahershala Ali would want to step in the role and perform some of these stunts himself. And I'm sure we wouldn't want to have the situation where John Wick, Keanu Reeves said that his legs at a point in time is no help, his knees is not really helping him with the John Wick franchise. So I hope they'll get on moving with this property as soon as possible so that we can see the two-time Oscar winner, tremendous actor. And he actually, for those who may not know, I don't know whether this particular character will be spun off his Cottonmouth character that appeared in the Luke Cage movie. But, well, it is possible that the Luke Cage movie will not be in the same cinematic universe as this. However, because of the Daredevil continuation of the Daredevil character into the MCU, one way or the other, that story is tied into this. So I don't know. Maybe they are considering making Cottonmouth. Well, I don't know. It's just a guess. But whatever be the case, my hope is that they get onto this production very soon so that we can see the Blade man back into the franchise. Wesley Snipes has done well to feature in as a different variation of the Blade in the Deadpool and Wolverine. But now it's about time that the MCU have its main timeline Wolverine in the person of Mahershala Ali. So we hope to see this. So let me know your thoughts on this story, whether you think Mahershala Ali will still be attached when the production actually takes off, or whatever thoughts or comments you have. Please drop it in the comment section down below. So moving on from the story of MCU and Mahershala Ali in Hollywood, we are now moving straight to Kannada film industry in the country of India. And Bollywood is, um, in terms of quantity, they are the most prolific filmmaking industry as a whole. And Kannada is one of the industries under the Bollywood or the Indian film industry. And it's such a prolific industry that for a while I've been trying to find which story to have a segue into the film industry of India, and I've never had the opportunity to until now. And this story can be found in the Indian Times, and then it has to do with one filmmaker named Raj B. Shetty, and that is him in your short. And he says that a film doesn't need a known face. Content should be the only draw. Content should be the only draw. And in some reason, I agree with him. I will explain it further. So let me just read it quickly. Canada's cinema must nurture new talent, mid-budget, says Raj B. Shetty. When the trailer for the upcoming Kannada movie Soup from Seoul, directed by JP Tuminad, dropped, a mysterious scene sparked speculation that Raj B. Shetty might be acting in it. However, the actor director whose production house is making the film confirmed that he isn't. This decision was quite intentional. The whole point, the whole point is to the whole point was not to rely on my face to bring audience, he revealed in an interview with Bangalore Times. In the Kannada film industry, there's this dependency on star power to draw crowds. I don't think that's a healthy trend for not for any actor, especially not for a known one. I don't call myself a star, but people do recognize me. It's hardly an achievement for recognized faces to fill theaters. I believe that real success happens when new faces can bring people in. That's when we can truly experiment. So for this film, I wanted to take a risk and let the content be the only draw for the audience, he said. Our bar for content has been raised, filtered by countless excellent productions. This shift means our perception of what's good, bad, or merely acceptable is constantly evolving. Now we expect something new and fresh whenever we go to the theater. This film was genuinely funny to us, and that's why we know audiences will enjoy it. Sue from Soul is a Kannada supernatural comedy centered on a comedy of errors. Raj explains and adds it's about the wrong people in the wrong situation doing what they believe is right, even though we, the audience, know it's wrong. So I'll leave it at that. It's quite a lengthy article, but I thought I should leave it as it is. So that's Raj B. Shetty, a Kannada film industry or filmmaker. And truth be told, I don't know much about him except for when I saw this article online that interested me so much. But before I delve into what he said, I thought we would just take a look at some. I thought that we would just take a look at some of the films he's done so far. That is his filmography, just to have an idea as to how or who he is. So on Wikipedia, um, he's done a couple of films as an actor from since 2017. That is Ondu Moteya Kate, and he was the lead. He debuted as the lead as Jana Dana. Pardon me if I'm not getting the name right. Up to 2025. So that is almost 10, Eliza, is it 10? Yeah, about 10 or 9 productions with the 2025 production still filming. And then as a director writer, it was from 2017 till now, and he's still doing production. So, and he's also won several awards. So I'll leave the link to his to this article in the comment section down below. But just as it's written, Raj B. Shetty is an Indian actor, film director, screenwriter who works in the Kannada films. So that is an aspect or one of the film industries in India. So I do agree with Raj B. Shetty on the fact that the content or the film itself should be the only draw in the larger extent. I mean, if you are a studio executive, you definitely wouldn't agree with that. Yes, you would be concerned about ensuring that the quality of the story itself is strong enough, and when being shot on set, all the necessary perks and the production value are achieved to ensure that when it goes into the cinemas, it becomes a box office draw. However, we've known from time to time that films sometimes for the general audiences who may not necessarily care about or may not even know who an actor is, who this star is, they may not mind and would go into watching the film blindly, only concerned about how he or she will be entertained by the content. However, for a studio executive, in ensuring that the film is not just good enough, they would want to have known names and faces to sell the production. Yes, particularly in the opening weekend of the film premiering in the studios, in the cinemas. So for a studio executive, they may think otherwise. But I do agree that I think sometimes when such is done, a lot of the quality of the story is sometimes sacrificed to just accommodate known stars who will come in with their notes and would ultimately alter perhaps what is supposed to have been like in the film. And that is where, in certain sense, I do disagree with studios who may want to put for just name known stars and may end up sacrificing the quality of the story. So in that sense, I do agree with Raj B. Shetty, but I also understand how studio executives would want to always front films with known stars. Even producers would want to do that before they go talk to this Hollywood studios to ensure that it's done, or even major studios wherever they may be. So yes, commercially you need a box office name to make that happen. But I think that the star system from some time back did work so well, but with the advent of diversity or a different taste, people would definitely want to see some stars in movies, but they would prefer to have quality stories other than just having a known face, and yet films will not be successful. And there's been no names attached to projects that have failed woefully, regardless of the names attached to a project. And you could tell that in as much as people may have been excited to go and watch the films, yet the films didn't deliver to their expectations. So sometimes the name attached to certain projects may heighten or hype the movie so much that people may go into it with certain expectations, and then yet it will flop. I believe that when quality content is preserved over the star attaching, rather than adapting the whole story to a star, in a sense, it does work well in the long term. There have been certain movies that critically it was not accepted then, but then it became a critical darling to the extent that it ended up being one of the films that perhaps is hailed as the best in the world, or a best cinematic film. And that, I think, should be the priority of every film producer, filmmaker first, before thinking about casting. And casting should be made based on the demands of the character in the story, rather than just attaching a known name and retrofit the entire production to suit the character. One such example, which may not be which may not be the best, but actually did happen, was Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained. And as story is already known, as story has it, he wanted Will Smith to play the titular character, that is Django, and Will Smith was willing to play that character only on the condition that he ends up killing, is it Mr. Candy, that is the role played by Leonardo DiCaprio himself, rather than the German in the uh, Christoph Waltz character killing Leonardo. And Quentin Tarantino, being a master filmmaker and a writer, knowing what he wanted from the script, said no to that. And as a result of that, he dropped out of the project. Perhaps there could be more reasons than what I'm just saying or what I've been reported in the news. But this is a filmmaker who understood the quality of his work so much that he decided not to sacrifice that for um, for what an actor may be doing. And that's what happens sometimes with productions. When you bring on a known name, a known star, what happens is that he or she comes in with notes, when especially they do not trust entirely the filmmaker to come up with the best. And I arguably so, it makes sense because as a filmmaker, it is your face that sometimes sells the production, and you would want to make sure that it suits your branding and sensibilities and all that. But I also sometimes find it that filmmakers, especially when they are bigger, when they are a bigger star box office draw, sometimes do demand so much that at the end of the day they ruin certain projects that could have been better if they are just trusted. The likes of, I mean, of certain filmmakers like Quentin Tarantino. There are certain filmmakers that have not really made a terrible movie. I mean, the movie may not have made enough money at the box office, but in its entirety, the movie is good. And one of such filmmakers is Quentin Tarantino, Christopher Nolan, who else? Denis Villeneuve. There are a host of, I mean, host of them. So it does make sense that the only draw for a movie should be the story and not the character or the face, the star. So I do agree with that. I don't know what you think about that. So leave your thoughts about this. What do you think? Do you think the only draw for a movie should be the content, the story, and not the star behind it or in front of it? Or do you think the star should be the major draw and then secondly the story? Whatever your thoughts may be, kindly leave it in the comment section down below. Now let's move on to my third and final story for the day. And it is about the Ghanaian film industry, one filmmaker that has been very prominent over the years, over a decade, churning out stellar performances as an actor. And he himself has been producing a lot of, films. And he's done quite humanitarian projects like building a school where every fee is acceptable one way or the other. I don't know much about that, but he's been doing good works in the country. However, he's made this bold declaration, which was captured in the Modern Ghana film article, Ghana website, that says that I am the president of African movies and the king of Ghana movies, period. Well, this is written by Emmanuel Jacob Emisa. Let's read the article first, and then I'll I'll let you know my thoughts on it later. So, Ghanaian actor and filmmaker Kojo Nkansa, popularly known as Lilwin, recently stirred online conversation with his bold proclamation: "I'm the president of African movies and I'm the king of Ghana movies, period," he stated. Adding weight to his statement, Lil Wayne disclosed in late June 2025 that he personally invested approximately $500,000 into his most recent film, Captain Ibrahim Traore, a biographical story inspired by real life events in Burkina Faso. This colossal sum included around $400,000 in loans, combined with his own funds and external support to complete production. Lil Wayne has made it clear that he is not only leading the Kumawood scene but also aiming to raise the bar for African cinema. In previous projects such as A Country Called Ghana, he spent over $300,000 on production alone. Notably, he paid Nigerian actor Ramsey Noah over $40,000 for his role, excluding accommodation and feeding. The promotion for that movie also saw Lil Wayne spend over 1 million Ghana cedis on marketing materials, billboards, and more than 4,000 branded t-shirts. In another movie series, Mr. President, Lil Wayne revealed he spent about 700,000 Ghana cedis primarily on props like rented land cruises, motorbikes costing 5,000 Ghana cedis per day, and over 30,000 cedis worth of meat used in various scenes. These bold investments are part of his vision to elevate Ghanaian storytelling to international levels. According to Lil Wayne, meanwhile, African narratives require serious financial commitment, from casting to costumes to cinematic quality. You cannot expect to produce an internationally competitive movie on a shoestring budget. Every element, costumes, locations, actors must be top notch, he stated. Lil Wayne's dream is to push Ghanaian cinema to platforms like Amazon, Netflix, showcasing the rich culture and talents of the world. And so that's the I think his Instagram account where he made that declaration. Yeah, so it is indeed interesting to see him make this declaration. Whether masses will agree or not, well, that is left for the public to decide. But I first and foremost want to say that I don't underestimate his contribution to the Ghanaian film industry, as a whole. I actually don't subscribe to the idea of a Kuma Wood, then the Accra Wood film industry. Personally, I don't. We only have one film industry in Ghana. Uh, To the best of my knowledge, I think the only industry that really matters in Ghana is the Black Star films, and that is the most important one. The divisions, yes, they could have it, but I think that's the most important industry in Ghana, the Black Star films. I agree that he's contributed massively, or to the film industry, particularly with the Kumasi-based industry. There was a time when film production in Ghana wasn't really that much, but they sustained for a long period of time. They sustained it when even Accra, they were just sparsely productions that were not really making much. I mean, production were not being done a lot in Accra. So it does bode well that yes, he's contributed massively to the Ghanaian film industry. And yes, in turn, as a result of that, contributed to the African industry in a way, because whatever film production comes from Ghana does contribute to the African film industry. However, to make such bold statements, I think it's not is needless, because the reason why I'm saying it's needless is that it is not by you saying that I am the king of Ghanaian movies and I'm the president of African movies that makes it so. It doesn't. Yes, there's been some figures thrown around, but the question is that are those figures verifiable? And this is where I go back to some of the statements I always make, that the problem with our industry, particularly in Ghana, I cannot speak for Africa as a whole, but Ghana is actually a microcosm of what happens in the entire Africa. So let me zone in on Ghana. The three challenges we have in Ghana here is the absence of data, the insufficient, woefully insufficient infrastructure, which includes financing and other stuff, and also, last but not the least, government policies, strong government policies and enforced ones to help create the conducive environments for the Ghanaian film industry to grow. Now, let's talk about data. This falls within the area of data. Him making these statements about the budget and things, which I don't doubt. I cannot verify, neither do I doubt. I mean, that's left for him to actually decide. But then these figures that he's made, are they verifiable? Can it be verified? When you check certain website like Box Office Mojo and other verifiable websites, every budget used in a film is clearly stated, and there are checks and balances to ensure that these statements made concerning these budgets of the films are actually verifiable. They are verified, and it is there. And not just that, but the box office revenue that are generated as a result of the film screening in the cinemas are also made available to ensure that these data exist and they are actually true. And that is the problem we have in our industry. For you to declare yourself as king of African movies and president of king of Ghanaian movies and president of African movies, that should mean that you have this verifiable data that proves that box office wise you are the king of it. Let me just use an example here where James Cameron, without him declaring that he's the king of whatever film industry it is, the data is there to prove. Even Marvel Studios or Kevin Feige could say he comes in close seconds. There is data to prove. If you check the box office mojo, the worldwide box office, you have Avatar at number one, followed by Endgame, Avengers Endgame number two, and then at number three you have I think Avatar two or Titanic. Those results exist, and so without you even, there's no need for you to declare that you are the king of certain movie industry or the president of so and so. There are verifiable data to prove that indeed you are the king of the the film industry. And listen, I don't take from him. He's done a great job in the African on the Ghanaian film industry when he was so prominent. And the thing about him is that um, we had the problem with Ghanaian film industry is that sometimes you have too much of people on screen. But the thing is that we don't have so much alternatives that it makes it difficult to say to not. I mean, you will definitely just do with it as it is. And he starred in several movies. The good thing about him is that he's a terrific actor. Sometimes I personally feel that there's not been such great or directors to help bring out. They've done the very best with him, but I also feel like there's not been enough directors to help bring him out to a level where worldwide, in terms of the competing fiercely, his films competing fiercely worldwide, it's gone to that level. So it is indeed a challenge, and that is what we are hoping that can be done with regards to his films and many more. So for him to have said this thing, I don't argue with him. If that's what he wants to call himself, he has every right to do so. But what matters the most is that these statements of monies being used are supposed to be verifiable data, so that without you even saying anything, these the data itself will prove without you having to declare yourself a king or president of any film industry. But I still, I still respect him a lot for what he's been able to do and achieve so far. And I'll tell you, in certain areas, it's quite, unprecedented. And so he's done well. But my challenge is that sometimes some of these statements made with regards to these figures, you don't really see it translate on screen. There are sometimes you watch a certain film and a certain budget to be mentioned, but you don't see it within the film, within the frame of the film. But there are also other films that even the budgets that they used may be scanty, and yet you see a lot in the film. The production value of the film seems so big, and you wonder how they were able to make that happen. So these are challenges that we are faced with in the industry daily, and I hope that with time, Lilwin and the industry as a whole, the stakeholders as a whole, will put the necessary structures in place so that these data can be available to the public and verifiable, and in the long run will go the distance to help us all. So, well, this is a story I thought was interesting to tackle. In as much as he's made this declaration, I know he's done so well in the film industry, but I think perhaps it is needless and it's not necessary. Let me know what you think. I know that's my opinion. I'm not throwing shade at him whatsoever. That's my opinion, and I still respect him. He's really a prominent filmmaker and has contributed a lot to the Ghanaian film industry. So let me know what you think. Whether this statement is made is true or not. If you think it's true, you can leave in the comment section below. And if you also think that it's needless, whatever thoughts or so you have, kindly leave it in the comment section below. So this sums up my final story for the day. But however, today being Monday, having returned from the weekend, let's take a look at how well some of the box office, for some of the movies performed on the box office. So let's go straight to the box office mojo as usual. And first, starting with the domestic box office of the North American market, we have Superman still at number one from last week, which was still at number one, and it added $57,250,000 to its total gross, being $235,033,462. So Superman is still holding that spot. And number two, still from number two, is Jurassic World Rebirth, and it has added $23.4 million to a total now of $276,184,240, and that is a Universal Pictures. And number three is opening to the very first time is I Know What You Did Last Summer, and it has made 13 million at the box office. And number four is Smiths, which also opened just this past weekend, made 11 million. Number three is F1 the movie, which dropped. Well, number five, F1 the movie, which dropped from number three, has made $9,615,000 and now has a domestic total of 153,642,641. And number six is dropping from number four is How to Train Your Dragon at $5,350,000 and has a domestic total of 250,733,140 dollars. And number seven, Edenton has made $4,255,607, and that is its first opening weekend. And number eight from number five, Elio, the Disney Pixar film, has made $2 million to a domestic total of $68,923,095. And number nine is Lilo and Stitch, dropping from number seven, has made $1.5 million to a domestic total of $418,186,676. And last but not the least, on my top 10, there's still more. You can check it out when I drop it, the link in the comment section below, in the description below. Is number is From number six is 28 years later, making $1,340,000 and with a domestic total of $68,740,000, $740,073. So this sums up the box office domestic total for the North American market. So let's move on to the international market and see what the top 10 best performing movies are. So at number one, we have Neza 2 still taking the first spot of the year 2025 with $1,899,796,467. And number two is Lilo and Stitch, which has finally made a billion. Lilo and Stitch has finally made a billion, and the total is $1,007,986,000 thousand with and $676, and that is a big win for Disney Pixar, to be specific, under the Disney group of companies. And at number three, we have the Minecraft movie, which is still close to a billion, but at this stage, it doesn't look like it's going to make a billion yet. But it's performed so well at $955,149,195. And number four, we have Jurassic World Rebirth, which has made $647,953,240. And number five is Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, which has made a total of $588,811,092. And number six is How to Train Your Dragon, which has made a total of $580,912,140. And number seven, we have F1 the movie, making a total of $460,842,641. And number eight, Captain America: Brave New World, has a total of $415,101,577. And now it's the first entry into the top 10 is Superman at number nine, with a total of $406,833,462. And last but not the least, and not the exhaustive, is Thunderbolts at $382,093,392. I mean, you can see at number 11, Sinners has dropped from the top 10, which has done so well for an R-rated film horror flick. So this is the total box office for the worldwide, for the worldwide, so that sums up my, episode for today. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and thanks so much for joining me for this episode. It looks like I've gone longer than the time usually I stay within, but thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I'm so excited about these stories, and we'll be talking more about stories over the weekend in tomorrow's episode. So kindly join me for tomorrow's episode for more juicy information, both from the African front and international scene. Thank you so much, and my name is Papa Otu, and this has been the Film Mandate. See you soon.